you, Senator Bozeman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, introduction of Russian troops into Niger, same bases where American personnel, including Kansas members of the National Guard, are stationed. What's being communicated to the junta in Niamey to make certain our service members are protected? And what can you assure me about our pending withdrawal, that it will be safe and responsible?
Thank you, Senator. My number one priority, the number one priority of the Secretary of Defense, in this case, is force protection or personnel protection. And particularly in a situation like Niger, where, yes, we had a coup, we sought to reach an agreement with the junta or the government that exists now about staying. We haven't been able to reach an agreement that meets our needs, but we've been absolutely clear with them about the imperative of making sure that as we pull forces out, we do it in a way that is safe and secure for those forces, just as our embassy personnel needs to be protected. We have assurances from that government about that, but my number one priority is making sure that whatever happens as we proceed with bringing forces out, it's done in a way that protects them.
I think I read in the general press about a September 15th date for departure.
That's correct.
What's that based on? Why from now until then?
Basically, the amount of time it takes to do it safely, securely, to retrograde all of the material that's there. Again, to your point, we also want to make sure that we not only bring our people home, we bring all of the equipment home, technology home, because we certainly don't want Russians or Russian proxies getting a hold of that.
Related but concerning is we've spent billions of dollars in security assistance for countries across the Sahel, including training their militaries. I think we've seen 5 coups by the very military that the U.S. is training since 2020, and the numbers I've seen suggest that terrorism-related activities grow by 2,000% in the last 15 years. What is it that we need to do to change our policies, and where do we go? Emphasis on security assistance versus governance, peace building, conflict resolution.
Yeah, I think you put your finger on something critical, which is that as necessary as the security and military assistance is, it's not sufficient. And a more comprehensive approach that gets at trying to build government capacity, institutions, transparency, economic development, social needs, all of those things are imperative if we're actually going to have something that's sustainable. So we have some comprehensive plans in place to do that. With some of the countries surrounding the Sahel, we have the Global Fragility Act, thanks to Congress and indeed many members of this committee, that gives us both the means and the long-term approach to try to help build that up. Because I think if we don't, all the security assistance in the world is probably not going to work, and we're going to be on the wrong end of what you've just described.
Mr. Secretary, I think in last year's hearing I raised this topic and asked this question. There's lots of reasons that this is important, but we have an average 400-day wait time to receive a visitor's visa to the United States. Senator Klobuchar and I have introduced the Visa Process Improvement Act. I'm reminding you that we have the Olympics coming to the United States, FIFA World Cup in 2026, 11 cities, including Kansas City, are hosting these events. It's expected to attract 8 million international visitors. What's the plan? Is there changes that we've not yet seen that improve the situation for the visa processing system to address this 400-day average wait?
Yes, in short, yes, and we've been on this relentlessly. And the fact is, right now, more visitors can travel to the United States than ever before as a result of visas. For FY23, we issued 10.5 million non-immigrant visas, and that exceeds what we issued before the pandemic, which is when we got into a great deal of difficulty. Exceeds it by 20%. We have, with the highest standards for security and vetting, which of course remains critical in what we're doing. We have wait times across the board. They are now at pre-pandemic levels in every single category, except for first-time visitors to the United States from non-visa waiver countries. So this is an area that we're putting particular focus on. because every other wait time is actually below now pre-pandemic wait times. The processing times that are most impactful to our economy, whether it's students, temporary workers, business travelers, all of those wait times are actually down. So we have to focus on, and we are focused on, the first-time travelers who are not coming from visa waiver countries. We have dedicated extensive resources to this to make sure that both in our embassies and back home, we can do what's necessary to process people, process them quickly.
Is there any evidence, Mr. Secretary, that China has taken steps, tangible steps, to reduce the flow of fentanyl and precursor chemicals into the United States?
Yes, a good start, but not enough. By a good start, I mean this. After the meeting between President Biden and President Xi, President Biden secured an agreement by China to act more effectively on this. And what we've seen since then is the promulgation of new regulations to their chemical-producing companies. We've seen them take down some companies that were engaged in the illicit transfer of chemical precursors. And in addition, they established with us a working group so that we are working on this regularly and we can bring information to them about things that we're seeing. Having said that, we believe that to really have an impact on the flow of these precursors that typically would go to Mexico, synthesized into fentanyl, come to the United States, there are a few things that we really need to see. One is very public law enforcement with prosecutions and convictions of people or enterprises that are engaged in this. Two, there are a number of chemical precursors that should be scheduled that China, at least theoretically, has agreed to schedule that they still haven't, thus making it more difficult for companies to divert them. And third, there is a financial nexus between some actors and entities in China and criminal organizations in Mexico in particular that they need to act on.
Is China ambivalent, or it actually gains benefit from supporting the trade?
I think from what we've seen, they saw it before as principally a problem for us and a demand problem that we were not addressing effectively. We have made it clear to them that, one, this is a #1 priority for us. As you know well, Americans between the ages of 18 and 49, #1 killer is fentanyl, synthetic opioid. So this is a national emergency. Second, what we've seen is that even as our markets have become saturated, these criminal enterprises are making markets elsewhere around the world, in our own hemisphere, in Europe, in Asia. And we've made it clear to China, there's going to be a growing demand signal on you to act responsibly in dealing with this. You may not care so much if it's coming from us. You're probably going to care more if it's coming from a lot of other countries. We put together a coalition now of almost 150 countries and organizations to deal globally with the synthetic drug crisis. And I think China is hearing those demand signals, and we're seeing action. But again, it's a start, but it's not enough.
Thank you.